with the elephant in the room, I mean, now it's become kind of a buzzword where people are avoiding to say it altogether. But look, we're under a global pandemic with COVID-19, and it is probably the biggest disruptor, right, for our
Yes.
society as a whole. I mean, look, I don't think anyone would have asked this to be the reason or the cause for a disruption, but it is what it is. And so I think there is some positive change that's happening because of this. But now, in your opinion, how does that change the landscape of, design and development in LA moving forward? Given
You know what? For whatever reason, I've been talking about this quite a lot in the last couple of weeks, and trying to find the elements. There's so many elements that we do right now. I went out to lunch today, and moved from my car to the restaurant wearing a mask, get in, sit down. Oh, I'm at the table. Great. So you can take it off. And then put it back on, as good citizen and all that on my way back out. Yeah. And it's like, okay, so we've kind of gotten used to that. And it's like, it's not nightmarish. It's like a little inconvenient. But that's not going to last forever, right? If, God willing, we don't have a second wave, which I'm praying we don't, eventually that will stop. I mean, they tried to stop it once. Governor Newsom thought, well, maybe a little too soon. So it's back. It's the same thing with the trends that I'm seeing discussed in the press right now about, how's it going to change office space and how it's going to change different things like that. Office and retail, extraordinarily volatile in this time period. And I'm going, boy, those balls are swirling in the air, and I had no idea where they're going to land and don't even want to suggest. Some of the stuff we're talking about in multifamily is temporary. It's temporary. I promise you it's temporary. And I tried to identify a couple of things that I think maybe will stick. And the single biggest thing is work from home. And that actually changes design, which makes my heart beat, right? Because it's like, oh, okay, so you do not produce units any longer that almost wherever you are, that do not have some acknowledged accommodation for plugging in your laptop and working and doing a Zoom call like this one, right? And so that is going to stay. And I don't think that's going to go away, even though most people working from home are going to snap back to the office. That's my prediction. So even if 10%, John, if 10% of them who had to do it in the crisis stay at home, the numbers and the impact of the numbers of that are just phenomenal. And they mean a lot for planning and production of especially multifamily communities. And I'll tell you why, because I see it right now is the core is considered, there's a lot of debate about the core, whether density makes code worse, right? And I'm starting to see the other side of the argument come out and debunk that idea. So they've gone after transit's not so bad and density's not so bad, right? So it's like, okay, you're right. There's always going to be a certain population that is comfortable with that. But for right now, the bloom is off the rose in the urban core to a certain extent. So people are looking farther afield, and the fact that they can work from home has just gone into hyperspeed in terms of people. I just read an article, I had it on my other screen, about homeowners fleeing the urban core to the suburbs, right? It's like somebody called Joel Kotkin because he's having the best day of his life right now.
I share your views as well. I think there's an argument for and against anything that happens in this pandemic, and it's hard to have a stance because everything's so fluid, right? But I do agree that the nightmarish situations that people are talking about, where death of retail, given a vaccine and ability to kind of get everyone vaccinated, I think that'll change and people will go back and start shopping. But are there going to be improvements? Did it quicken adoption for grocery delivery, for remote work? I think it will. But I think that, again, is another net positive benefit.
No, I do too. And it's another design impact, right? Because the proliferation of home deliveries of everything, a lot of communities right now are not really set up to facilitate that. That's not going backwards. It's going to snap back a little, but there's always going to be a decent, measurable, vestigial amount of that remaining, and we have to accommodate that, right? I remember a few years back, we started putting in, I want to say, Uber waiting rooms, right? That's what we call them, the Uber lounge. It's the ride-share waiting area in urban properties. And it's like, okay, well, it takes more space. It kind of does this. Oh, yeah, but it's cool, right? So that you sometimes in accommodating things, you try to make them flexible to a certain extent when you can. But that one's pretty tough because there's like curb cuts and driveways and things. So that's not also flexible. But that's going to be with us until the next disruptor of personal transportation, which all that's going to do is take drivers out of the cars.
Right.
The cars are still going to be there.